David Carrick, Police Narcissist. Part 2. This is a continuance of the analysis of the sentencing remarks in relation to David Carrick. The sentencing remarks provide us with further detail about what David Carrick has done to enable you to understand more about his behaviours with regard to the mindset and behaviours of a narcissist. Some of the material may be graphic in detail, and therefore you have been duly warned. These are the sentencing remarks that are issued by the presiding judge in relation to sentencing him following his various guilty pleas. The judge is Mrs. Justice Chima Grubb, DBE. She continues as follows. Your next victim was a woman you had been to school with, N. Having reconnected at a school reunion in 2003, you both attended another reunion over the August bank holiday in 2009. She ended up sharing a room with another woman and you. You and she were in the same bed, and despite her remonstrations, you kept touching her intimately. Lack of boundary recognition, sense of entitlement, manipulation through rudimentary means, absence of emotional empathy. She left the bed and got in with her friend, but you dragged her back. Physical control, held her arms behind her back, and told her it would be your little secret. She was married. Interference in relationship, lack of boundary recognition, absence of emotional empathy. She didn't want to do anything with you, and resisted, but you penetrated her vagina and anus with your fingers. Then you tried to rape her. Count 5, assault by penetration. Count 6, assault by penetration. Count 7, attempted rape. That same year, you attempted to rape a second woman from your martial arts club, use of hunting ground, S, after a social evening where you had both been drinking. You charmed her into returning to your home, application of charm to assert control, to spend the night together. But once upstairs and naked, you became aggressive, using force to pin her down on the bed, scaring her and challenging her to overcome you. Obvious behaviours, issue of threat. You then turned her around and tried to rape her, but you could not maintain an erection, which made you angry. Threat to control. When you encountered each other thereafter, you made public comments humiliating her. Use of insult, belittlement. Count 9, attempted vaginal rape. From 2015 until your arrest, you worked in the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Unit, which replaced the DPG. Typically, your shifts involved static arm protection at sites, including Parliament and embassies. In 2015, you raped Ainley Kay, another old school friend. You told her you were now a Met police officer, and she was attracted to you, but after you began to have anal sex with her, she told you to stop because it hurt. You ignored her. She was in pain for days afterwards. Assertion of control, lack of accountability, absence of emotional empathy. She too didn't feel as if she could report it to the police because you were a police officer. Count 8, anal rape. The following year, you were engaged for 6 months in a relationship which you admit was coercive and controlling with a woman, B. You met her through a dating app, use of hunting ground, when she was in a vulnerable position, use of vulnerability against the victim, in an unhappy marriage. You were intensely charming, and she quickly agreed to move in with you, swift cohabitation, sense of entitlement. She knew you were a police officer and was reassured. You offered to pay her $1,000 a month, bribery, if she'd be your slut. You didn't want her to bring her daughter with her, but she did, and the child, about 10 years of age, witnessed some of your subsequent abuse of her mother. Absence of emotional empathy towards the mother and the child. Triangulation with child. This was a particularly harrowing course of conduct, and it illustrates the fifth theme I have identified, namely the escalating extreme domination of your victims. Over 6 months, you succeeded in cutting her off from most of her friends and family. Isolation from support networks, increasing method of control. You watched her while at work using a camera you had fixed up at home. Assertion of control through digital means. The degree to which you imposed weight restrictions on her, control through food and body image, and supervised what she could and could not eat, is demonstrated by her changing from a size 14 to a 6 in a couple of months. In a singular act of cruelty, you forced B to have anal sex shortly after she had undergone an operation to remove hemorrhoids. You were violent and angry. in ignited fury. In intense pain, she fought you, and you tore her anus. Physical injury, assertion of control, lack of emotional empathy. One night, she didn't want to have oral sex because her daughter's school friends were staying over, and they might hear. But you forced her to take your penis in her mouth and humiliated her, humiliation, gagging her so she struggled to breathe. Her daughter did hear her mother being raped on that and other occasions. By the time B escaped from you, she was suicidal. Count 11, anal rape. Count 12, oral rape. Count 13, oral rape. Count 14, oral rape. Count 15, oral rape times 2, multiple offending. Count 16, coercive and controlling behaviour. Your next controlling and coercive relationship lasted from March 2017 to January 2019. You met Jay in a bar in Ely, where you were socialising with other police officers. Again, the relationship developed quickly. Sense of entitlement, assertion of control promptly. You wooed her with charm, but this soon dissipated. She too was reassured by your job as a police officer. You controlled who she saw, assertion of control, what she did, assertion of control, ate, control through food, and wore, control through clothing, even which side of the pavement she was allowed to walk. You told her she belonged to you, objectification on possession, and must obey you. You humiliated her, calling her names such as whore and prostitute, belittlement, pet names. You threatened her with a police baton, use of threat, and sent her a photograph from work of your firearm with the message, "Remember, I am the boss." Triangulation with object. She worked as a mental health nurse, but you belittled her job, belittlement, and derided people with mental health problems. This included her son, and you stopped her from seeing him for a year. Absence of emotional empathy, isolation. You tracked her using the camera in your house, assertion of control. You even spoke to her through it from work and accused her of being lazy, false accusation, belittlement. Sexually, you were aggressive with her, raping her anally and orally to ejaculation on many occasions. She would sustain bleeding from her anus. You sometimes used police-issue handcuffs to restrain her while you raped her. You would whip her, leaving welts on her bottom, either as part of sex or to punish her. Assertion of control, physical violence, absence of emotional empathy. The court has seen the whip because when she escaped from you, she took it to save other women from harm. Showing utter contempt for her as a human being, you would shut her naked into a small cupboard under the stairs as punishment, even while she had a panic attack. You would stand and whistle outside. Assertion of control, belittlement, obvious enjoyment of devaluation, sadistic behaviours. Jay's account, which you now confess is entirely true, is that you gained considerable satisfaction from degrading her by your sexual abuse. You made her have anal sex in a tent next to the tent which her parents were occupying on a holiday and covered her mouth. She felt unable to cry out for help when her father came to ask if she was all right. During oral rape, she would gag and vomit, but you carried on regardless. Absence of emotional empathy. She acquired a sexually transmitted disease from you. You gained sexual excitement from urinating on her and into her mouth, making her swallow. Belittlement. Humiliation. You would go through her phone. Lack of boundary recognition. You sent her messages ridiculing her. Insult. And telling her you wanted to piss on her grave. You destroyed her capacity to work for herself. Your shaming of this woman extended to trying to fist her and making her lick your anus. Belittlement. You drilled into her that you were the police, you were the law, and you owned her. You were often heavily in drink when you abused her. She didn't report your outrageous behaviour to the police because she didn't think the police would investigate it and she would not be believed. She was terrified of becoming a target, but once she heard you had been arrested in October 2021, she gained confidence to speak out. Count 17, false imprisonment. Count 18, false imprisonment times 9, multiple incident. Count 19, controlling or coercive behaviour. Count 20, anal rape. Count 20, anal rape times 9, multiple incident. Count 22, oral rape. Count 23, oral rape times 9, multiple incident. Count 24, sexual assault. Count 25, sexual assault times 4. Count 26, assault by penetration. Count 27, causing a person to engage in sexual activity without consent. During your relationship with Jay, you continued connecting with women on a dating site, use of a hunting ground, and you met W in July 2018. She was a cleaner, and you told her you wanted her to clean for you, that you were a police officer, and you had carried out a police force check on her. She trusted you because of your job. You let her see text messages to Jay which were so inappropriate and abusive they made W feel sorry for Jay, triangulation with person. One day you attacked her in the nude while she was cleaning your shower. You put your penis in her mouth and she gagged, unable to breathe. You ejaculated in her mouth and she was sick. Count 28, oral rape. Also overlapping with J was P, multiple intimate partners, who you also met through a dating site, use of a hunting ground. P is a vulnerable woman of about the same age as you. She has mild learning disability, use of vulnerability against victim, and experiences anxiety. She is not able to speak up for herself confidently, and this would have been apparent to you. You told her you worked as an armed police officer. Your relationship with her was exploitative. She came round to clean for you, and to start with, you were funny and nice, application of charm, golden period. But when you were under the influence of alcohol, you changed into a monster. She wanted you to like her, but you treated her as a slave and called her one, objectification. You orally raped her on at least 3 occasions, putting your penis so far down her throat, she gagged, couldn't breathe, and vomited. This excited you. Obvious delight in devaluing behaviours. On occasions when she performed oral sex, you urinated in her mouth and onto her body. Humiliation. You forced a dildo into her anus until she was screaming, and also tried to force your fist into her. When she screamed, you shoved her into the shower and urinated over her. She vomited. Counts 29 to 32 and 38, sexual assaults, urinating in mouth, vaginal area and body, hitting with belt. 33 to 35, oral rapes. 36, assault by penetration, dildo. 37, attempted assault by penetration. In February 2020, you met F through a dating site, use of hunting ground, and she moved in with you, swift cohabitation, sense of entitlement, in March that year, and left in July. She believed you were trustworthy because of your work as a policeman. You quickly gained control over F's behaviour and time, monopolization of time, assertion of control. She was afraid of you, both because of your aggression and because you threatened to report her to the immigration authorities. Use of threat. The first time you raped her anally, she cried from the pain and her anus bled. You told her she was making a fuss. Belittlement, euphemization of behaviours. On such occasion, she told you she didn't want to do it. You disregarded her clear objections and subdued her. As with other victims, you abused and degraded F by forcing your penis into her mouth and urinating, or urinating over her face. Humiliation, assertion of control, absence of emotional empathy. In July 2021, a year after she left you, these allegations came to the notice of the police in Hertfordshire. Count 39, coercive and controlling behaviour. Counts 40 and 41, anal rapes times 5. Counts 42 and 43, multiple sexual assaults. On Friday the 1st of October 2021, a woman made a complaint of rape against you dating back to August 2020. That was count 44 on the main indictment, in respect of which no evidence was offered, and a not guilty verdict was entered yesterday. However, when your arrest and charge for that offence on the 3rd of October 2021 was publicised, victims began to provide the accounts I have summarised. I have read the statements made by 10 of the 12 victims, both as to their experiences and the impact it has had. There is powerful and compelling evidence of irretrievable devastation in the lives of those you abused. Survivors of rape and coercive control react and cope in different ways. Those differences are apparent in the statements. Each one is traumatized. One woman feels as if she has been lost for the last 19 years, encapsulating her experience with you as an encounter with evil, which has caused long-lasting psychological harm. Denial, anger, hatred, betrayal, shame, self-blame, and fear of being labelled a victim are common emotions. You have shaped their lives, deprived them of the ability to trust men and form relationships. Some have damaged mental health and suffer loneliness. They continue to question their own judgment. They don't trust the police. Some have tried to get back control by behaving in dangerous ways, self-harming, interfering with their own health and relationships, pushing boundaries, and almost destroying trust in those they value the most. Those you controlled are trying to recover their self-esteem and lost relationships, including with a daughter who self-harms and still has nightmares because of your abuse of her mother. These women are not weak or ineffectual. They were victims of your criminal mindset. The malign influence of men like you in positions of power stands in the way of a revolution of women's dignity. It is remarkable that with one woman being driven to report an allegation against you, despite your position and power, others felt able to act. Even today, courage calls to courage everywhere, and its voice cannot be denied. I will pause at this point. This, of course, details a systematic series of behaviours by this individual who exhibits absolute zero emotional empathy for his victims and those associated with his victims. He demonstrates the use of physical and sexual violence, an absence of emotional empathy, a complete lack of accountability, a sense of entitlement to treat these individuals in this way, to misuse his position as a police officer, to order people around and to expect immediate responses. He is dismissive, obnoxious, contemptuous. He operates with a high regard for his own abilities, believing himself to be ultimately powerful and untouchable. His methods of manipulation are the application of charm and thereafter shifting to malign manipulations by way of physical and sexual violence alongside humiliating and distressing behaviours. It is very clear that this individual is a narcissist, as not only does he show repeated narcissistic indicators, he does so over a long period of time. Join me in part 3 for further information provided by the judge and with regard to his actual sentencing.